Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Ecoffee with Experts. I'm your host, Matt Fraser. And on today's episode, I have with me Martin Kier. Martin is the founder and president of Brand Buddy, a boutique branding and digital marketing agency located in Arvada, Colorado. He has a bachelor's degree in digital marketing from the Leeds School of Business at the University of Colorado and is a digital marketer certified customer value optimization specialist. Martin has over 8 years of experience helping small and medium-sized businesses succeed online by creating innovative marketing campaigns to drive traffic using social media as well as social media advertising, email marketing, Google Ads, SEO, and content marketing that increases sales and revenue as a result of building high-converting websites that focus on the customer journey. When not working on marketing campaigns for clients, Martin enjoys fishing in the outdoors, no matter what the weather, attending car shows, as well as cooking his favorite dish, chicken parmesan. Martin, thank you so much for being here. Pleasure to have you on the show.
Thanks, Matt. Happy to be here.
Yeah. So, Martin, tell me a little bit about your story. Who was Martin as a high school student?
Oh, man. Yeah. As a high school student, I was very much into just like antiques and collecting antiques. And I actually got to a point where I actually really got into jewelry, and I started a jewelry business. I was going I was just going to different events, different craft fairs, different conventions, and just, setting up my table, little baby business owner. And people would be like, hey, what's your social media? What's your website? And that's kind of what got me wrapped into the whole digital marketing field from an earlier age. But that was a lot of what I did as a high school student, just worked at that business. As far as school went, I enjoyed it. I was grateful for the education and had some good professors, or I guess teachers. Just really thankful for that time.
That's awesome. So what motivated you to focus on digital marketing when you went to college?
Yeah, so between high school and college, I had a variety of different business experiments that were, just short-term things. I think I added them all up a couple months ago, and it was like 18 different experiments. 3 of those did well and were profitable. The jewelry business was included in that. But yeah, when I got into college, I originally was going the pre-med route because I was like, I'm good at, sciencey things. I can, I can do well in those classes, and I did well. But about halfway through, I was like, that entrepreneurship spirit, that's a thing. I can't really seem to ignore it. So I was like, I just kind of really analyzed myself and started understanding what it was that I liked about owning a business. And it was the marketing piece. So that's what made me shift my focus entirely and just dive into that. And it was a great decision. I know not everybody has fantastic experiences in college, but I definitely did. I had some extremely passionate professors, and it was just easy to link how one class, relates to another. So extremely grateful for that.
Right on. So what was your motivation for starting Brand Buddy?
Yeah. So with those previous 18 business experiments that I mentioned, I did bring on different digital marketing agencies to help out with some of those efforts. And a large part of the time I was disappointed in how they were interacting, whether it was a lack of communication, a lack of expertise, and so forth. So I was like, I think I can do this a little better.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's unfortunate that our industry kind of is tainted by bad actors, if you will. Seems every industry is tainted, people think it's just the car sales industry that has bad actors, but there's dentists that are bad dentists and optometrists and even doctors. But I can see how easily it can be to not provide enough value and enough of a world-class experience for clients in our industry because how easy it is to get online. You know, you can buy a theme from Theme Forest and a logo and slap up a website in a couple hours and call yourself a digital marketing specialist. So yeah, that's for sure.
Definitely.
Anyway, that being said, can you describe your first experience, working on your first digital marketing campaign?
Oh boy. Let me think. I'm gonna have to go into like the archives of my mind for that one. So I'd say the first project that I took on as a digital marketing campaign, it was when I had the jewelry business and social media ads were still very much Wild West.
So do you mean Facebook ads?
Yes.
Specifically?
Yeah. Yes, exactly. So, you know, I would hop on there and, you know, start up a campaign for like $10. Barely even knew what I was doing. Didn't know what conversion tracking was. And, you know, you'd start to generate clicks and some website traffic. And that was exciting to see. But, you know, what I didn't realize at the time was when somebody sees an ad on social media, they start to research you elsewhere. And so the Etsy store that I had at the time was getting a uptick in sales. And I was like, Etsy's working great, but Facebook isn't so much. Little did I know they were connected. So, but yeah, that was kind of my first experience with digital marketing campaigns, I suppose.
What was your first digital marketing campaign that you were successful at?
Oh man. Yeah. That would have been the one that I'm like, it would probably be I had a landscaping business during the first 2 years of college.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of hard work, but yeah, we had a digital marketing campaign running on Facebook, and LinkedIn. We were just doing some experimentation there in the local area. And that's just when I started to realize how easy it was to track conversions and how the setup process actually worked. So the first year, we had 3 staff members, including myself. And by the end of that year, it was like so busy. And then the following year, we went up to about 9 employees with a general manager. So it definitely made a big impact on how we did business there.
All right, on. Hey, so you mentioned people having terrible experiences, or you had not the greatest experience. And I know that client onboarding sets the tone for client agency relations big time. So what's your process for that?
Yeah. So right now, going from prospect to fully implemented scope of work, like as a client, we start with a discovery call just to understand their business, who they target, their services, their budget, and what areas of digital marketing they have an interest in. So we definitely take a lot of time on that call just to make sure we set expectations and get to know the business owner or the marketing director that we're working with. After that, we generate their proposal. They sign a cancel anytime contract, provide us access to necessary platforms, whether that's Facebook or MailChimp or the website and so forth. But once we get those, we begin to set up what is needed. Let's say maybe they have a Facebook account, they don't have an Instagram account. We set that up for them. But once that's all established, we start to send out draft posts, ads, modifications to their site, depending on what service they bring us on for. But yeah, we always think that it's important to send them those draft posts or draft modifications, just because we do think there's value in keeping the business owner's voice in what they offer. Because, a lot of times we're going into industries that we aren't super familiar with, and the business owner knows everything about that industry. So we think it's important to get their feedback on that type of stuff to make sure we're, using correct vocabulary, representing their business appropriately, and so on. But once all those are implemented, we then start to, once all of those draft, ads or posts are sent to them, we implement them, and it's very high touch at first from a communication standpoint. But then clients will typically settle into a regular touch point, whether that's weekly or monthly. We'll have a report for them. But yeah, typically from contract signing to full scope implementation, that's about 2 weeks. We try to get it all done in that amount of time.
What do you use for software for onboarding clients?
We are actually pretty dang primitive when it comes to that. So we actually don't really use a software at the moment. We're looking at bringing on a CRM soon to help with that, make sure everybody's on the same page. But right now we just kind of keep it old school, send emails back and forth, collaborate on Google Docs and so on.
Fair enough. What was I going to say? Do you think there should be SOPs in place for every process that you take your customers through?
So given our current agency size and just how quickly we like to move and generate results for our clients, we don't like to use SOPs for every process, but that may change in the future as we grow and bring on new positions just to keep that quality in control.
Absolutely. Have you ever turned away a client?
Yeah, definitely. So, of course, every agency is different in what they're looking for from a client. So I'm not going to make like a blanket statement and say like, if you're an agency, avoid client Y. So that being said, when we started out, we took anything that we could get at whatever price point we could get. But now we're more picky. So, on our discovery calls, a major thing that we look out for is just unrealistic expectations where a client's like, oh, I want, 10x return overnight, and, we'll turn those down. Definitely don't do any more like free months in most cases, like hop on board with us for, a free month, see how it goes. That's a no-go for us anymore. But there's also a couple of industries that we don't like working with just because it's difficult to get ads approved for. And that's seen pretty commonly with marijuana and supplements.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. The cannabis industry definitely still has a stigma attached to it.
Definitely.
Despite the positive medical benefits of some of those things. That being said, besides unrealistic expectations in regards to results, are there any other red flags that you've seen over your time that agencies should avoid?
Those are the primary ones that we'll typically look out for. At the moment, there's not really any others.
Fair enough. So what do you think is the most important aspect of creating a website user experience, a positive one?
Yeah, so I would say that the conversion optimization is super important. So, to the public, when they hear conversion optimization, it probably doesn't mean anything. So by that, I mean, you need to make it insanely easy and pleasing to complete the action that you want your audience to take. So whether that's, completing a contact form, book a time with you, or complete a purchase, just really cutting down those steps or clicks it takes for that conversion to happen. And, it sounds like common sense, but sometimes if you have, either an early digital marketing agency that doesn't quite know what they're doing yet, or a business owner that tries to DIY it, it's just try to really cut down on those steps for that action to happen.
Fantastic. I noticed you called your agency Brand Buddy. How important is building a solid brand for small businesses?
Yeah. So I think it's very important, but I think they need to approach it realistically. If it's a small business that's just starting out, you might not be able to afford thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars put towards your small business. But, over the long term of that business growing, it's just important to always keep in mind that customers will see you, or prospects will see you online, whether that's on Facebook or Google Ads, or maybe they come across your website first. That experience and that brand needs to be consistent across channels, just because of the amount of research that people do now before making an important decision on whether or not to purchase from your business or schedule with your business. That's just paramount. That'll just give you way more chances of success.
What do you think some of the, like, for instance, what are some of the aspects then of a successful brand developing some of the key components, foundations of developing a successful brand for a local business?
Yeah. So for a local business, I would say, of course, getting your basics down, where it's like you have a logo that you use consistently across platforms. You've got colors that you use across platforms. And then you establish your communication tone and how you write about your business. I think those basics will never really go away. But it's just good to stick with that. Because that's how customers are going to remember you. So that's ultimately going to lead to more success.
Absolutely. What are some ways you stay up to date on the latest social media trends and best practices?
Yeah, it's actually really tough to avoid not staying up to date, in my opinion. Now. We talk pretty often with other agency owners, which that makes it easy to stay up to date. But Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube algorithms have picked up that I have a digital marketing business. So I'm always getting hit with news or, updates regarding the different platforms that we use. But otherwise, we get a lot of updates and major changes just because of the reps that we're connected with on social media, Google or the other softwares that we use. They'll typically reach out and let us know, hey, there's a big change coming, get ready for it. So that's always very helpful.
Absolutely. How can businesses make the most of their social media marketing budget?
Yeah. Big thing is just making sure that you have conversion tracking set up properly. It's just this small piece of code that you put on your website. And once that is installed properly, just make sure that your ads are optimizing towards the action you want. So you don't want to set up ads that are focused on clicks when what you actually want the customers to do is purchase. So that's just an example there. But I'd say another thing is just you should have a solid budget for creating ads, but you should also have a budget set aside for creating content or making the photos or videos yourself. Your digital marketing effort can be flawless, but if your content or branding is off, you're much more likely to fail. I'd say content is I might be giving it too much credit, but it's at least 50% of the reason why your digital marketing efforts succeed.
Succeed or fail. So
yes.
what are some tips to creating great content? Do you mean great content in the sense of ad copy or images or both?
Yeah, both. So, with kind of my favorite content that I like to see brands use, it's short, calls out the benefits of the service or product that you're supplying, and is memorable. So it's usually, when I say short, it's 15 seconds or less, and is optimized for multiple different platforms and placements.
Absolutely. Besides content, what do you think some of the other key factors to running a successful paid ad campaign on social media?
Yeah, I mean, it's of course important to know who your target market is. I know a lot of small businesses will, immediately come up with their ideal avatar or who their target market is. I would say, a good piece of advice would be not to get too hyper focused and try other areas. We've seen it before where a client thought that their main demographic to serve was males 25 to 44. But when the holidays rolled around, that completely shifted to women 45 plus. So it's good to keep those demographics broad and just, try not to assume too much about your target market. Yeah, I'm thinking here about some other ones.
Here's another thing.
That's really a main thing.
Yeah. What changes have you seen as a result of iOS 14 and its impact on Facebook ad campaigns?
Yeah. So the unfortunate thing when iOS 14 hit, and everybody talks about this now, is that your ability to track decreased dramatically. So instead of being able to track people up to 28 days, that got limited down to 7. So, it negatively impacted a lot of digital marketing agencies, especially if they were using only the standard ads managers, just because they weren't able to prove their value as much. Because if somebody sees an ad and 28 days later, they convert, it's, they can't show
attribution.
That. Exactly. So I think that's
how have you solved that?
Honestly, there's not really a way to solve it. From what we've seen, we've tried a variety of different super expensive softwares, but sometimes Google Analytics will be better at tracking revenue, but it's just kind of a matter of setting expectations with clients and being like, hey, the reporting in this is probably a little, under reporting given the attribution windows. So yeah, I think it's just a matter of communicating with clients so that way they understand what that means. Especially if the client. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No problem. Have you tried implementing UTM? Yeah, that's what I was asking. What I'm trying to say, detailed UTM tracking. Does that have any impact on being able to, at least in Google Analytics point of view, to be able to show some attribution? Yeah,
it definitely can help clarify that and give you some more tracking capabilities.
Yeah. So in other words, is it still possible? Because, if you're using UTM tracking with Google Analytics, I'm just wondering if it's still possible, because I haven't done it for a while. It's still possible to, because those, even though the platform isn't showing the conversions, I'd be interested to know if Google Analytics, because if they can click and you can set up some kind of user ID tracking for the conversions on the website, if that's a way to show that value and show those conversions, and maybe even setting up some displays in Google Data Studio. I don't know. Again, I'm just thinking outside the box here and trying to just figure out if those things would work or not based on your experience.
No, absolutely. We've done a lot of side-by-side tests where we show, how much revenue was generated from social media ads based on their standard ads manager versus Google Analytics.
Yeah.
In most cases, it ends up being about the same, which is good. But as far as the UTM tracking and tracking further past 28 days, that I think that still depends if they accept, all cookies when they land on the site.
Interesting. Can you still upload? I won't tell you exactly who, but can you still upload sold customer data for Facebook to tell you whether or not how many of those people purchased after a certain amount. Like I used to do that every month, and it would show, of the how many we sold as a result. Of course, it matches up the email address and the name and address and all that stuff. And they had all that data. And is that still possible in order to overcome that attribution challenge?
You can still upload customer lists. I'm not sure about the sold data being able to match up or not. But you can still upload like first name, last name, email address
for audiences.
For audience purposes, lookalikes and so forth.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I used to upload the data because I had to prove what I was doing was true, especially at the car dealership.
I bet.
So if customer audiences haven't changed, I'm pretty sure you could probably still upload the sold data lists in order for Facebook to tell you how effective your campaign was or how many people bought. Of course, the first question they asked me, instead of saying good job, the first question they asked me is, well, who are they? Not, hey, good job, Matt. The stuff you're doing is working. Great. No, it's who are they? Like,
it's like, do you really want to get to know them that much? Like,
yeah, exactly. Like, you really think Facebook's going to tell you that? Like, you're telling us it was successful. What are some other tips you can give small businesses looking to attract high quality leads through social media?
Yeah. I already said the conversion tracking.
What about campaigns though?
Yeah.
Different campaigns.
I know that's a great point.
Maybe some ideas you've done or examples, I mean.
Yeah. So if you have the budget, doing a full funnel campaign is really helpful. So that's where, you have one campaign that's, not spending a ton, but it's focused on video views. So a lot of times the TikTok style content works great for those high funnel campaigns.
Yeah.
And then, a little bit further down the funnel, you've got prospecting campaigns. That's just kind of like cold traffic that you are trying to get them to convert and make a purchase. Those, you can get a little bit more specific with your content type, maybe focus on some of your best sellers initially. And a really fun thing with those campaigns is that you can target the people that watched the videos in your higher funnel campaigns.
Yeah. And then retarget them.
Yep. With those. That's a really effective way to do it.
Is it still a good strategy to drive people to a content piece and do the same thing? Like drive them to watch videos, but also drive them to a content piece and then retarget those people and build up that audience. People, for instance, people who may be interested in kitchen renovation, like 7 mistakes to avoid before renovating your kitchen, and drive them to a content piece like that, and then retarget them with some kind of freebie or maybe a free consultation or something like that. Is that still a good strategy?
Yeah, it definitely is. It just helps keep that signal intact and helps Facebook get to know your audience even better. But like I said, if you have a big enough budget, it's great. Otherwise, if you're only starting out with like, say, $500 a month, you might want to focus only on one campaign. So
otherwise you're going to dilute your reach.
Yes.
What's the minimum budget you think people should start with when running Facebook campaigns?
I mean, we've gotten away with $300 a month on some clients. I wouldn't go much lower than that.
Yeah. That's pretty low.
Yeah.
$300 a month. Have you seen some returns on that for them?
Yeah. I mean, for local businesses, they're able to still bring in leads depending on, what their business type is. Obviously, a pet groomer is probably going to get more leads than, say, kitchen renovation. But we've still been able to pull in some tracked leads for them.
Right on. How have you seen the cost per click, the cost for advertising go up on Facebook considerably?
Yeah, it has gone up 20. I mean, they're always going to be increasing. 2020, exactly. 2020, obviously there was a dip there. Just while people, especially bigger businesses, pulled away from marketing spend on there. So there was some opportunity there, but it's still increasing for sure.
Yeah. So do you think remarketing? So is remarketing still a valid strategy?
Yeah,
Using the Facebook pixel?
I would say so. Again, it's not quite as powerful as it used to be given iOS 14, but it's still helpful. And usually when people think of remarketing, they think, oh, okay, I'm motivating them with some kind of freebie or discount. And, sometimes depending on your audience, they don't want that and they'll react negatively to it, which is funny. Sometimes they just want more social proof, or maybe they want to check out some of your other designs, maybe some collabs that you've done in the past. But yeah, I think it's still worth experimenting with and seeing if it works with the small business.
So I was remarketing to people who didn't convert. Like they'd be looking at a 2022 Mazda 3 on the website. And if they didn't convert based on the 4 conversions that I had indicated what they were, if they didn't convert, I retargeted them with dynamic inventory ads. So I would show them similar Mazda 3s, maybe including even the one that they were looking at. These are like shopping cart, shopping at like, shopping e-commerce websites have shopping feeds, and we had a inventory feed for their car dealership.
Yes.
And so we would just retarget them based on, and then we would use lookalike audiences based on the audience of traffic that was coming to that. So is that still something that is valid today? Is my question.
Yeah, definitely.
I've been in the game for a little while. So
yeah, you're talking about the dynamic catalog ads that are specifically for retargeting. Yeah, those are definitely still a thing. They're more of a thing for e-commerce businesses. For local businesses, I mean, like a car dealership would make sense.
But let's just pair that then. Car dealerships, they have their inventory ads, but shopping, so you're saying catalog still works. So e-commerce type businesses can retarget based on people who are maybe on a single product page, and then retarget them either with the category or if you've made a similar type product catalog, segmented your catalog and show them, and then created ad sets and show them those ads. Okay, I was just curious.
Yeah, you can definitely still do that.
The number one thing that's changed is the ability to reach people and retarget people because of iOS 14, which has caused a headache for lots of people, including Mark Zuckerberg, because his revenue is down because less people are using it. So he's got a huge problem to solve. How he's going to solve it, I have no idea.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. What do you think are some effective ways for small businesses to leverage artificial intelligence into their social media marketing campaigns?
Yeah, so it's kind of difficult to avoid some form of AI now. Like with Facebook and Instagram, they kind of already have it to a degree. As you spend more with their platform, and if your conversion tracking is set up properly, Facebook and Instagram start to get a better understanding of who your audience is and those who are more likely to convert. So that information kind of just gets pulled automatically into your ad strategy. I also know there's a variety of different tools out there that use AI to help you determine best time to post, etc. But yeah, I think it's kind of difficult to avoid AI now.
Yeah. What about using AI to write ad copy? What are your thoughts on that?
Like Jarvis, I think, is one of the popular ones.
Well, they switched it to Jasper now because they got sued by Marvel.
That's right. Yeah.
But there's several of them out there. There's Jasper and Copy.ai, and I can't remember all of them, but there's tons of them.
Yeah, I get hit with ads on them all the time.
Any thoughts on that?
I've talked with other agency owners about that, and they've tried to use them for posts, for ads, for blog articles, and it definitely still takes a second or third run through by a human to make sure it's properly working. But yeah, I mean, it's helpful in the sense that if you're suffering from a little bit of creative fatigue, it can help bring up some ideas. So
yeah, right on. Hey, what's your most memorable client story?
Yeah, so we had a client join us back in 2019. And these were actually the people that I mentioned earlier that thought their audience was males 25 to 44. And, for most of the year, they're correct. But anyways, they were making a couple $1,000s a month from their Shopify store. It was respectable, in my opinion. Anytime that somebody has revenue generating from an online store, it's impressive. But eventually they started to expand. They were releasing some new products, launching new stuff, created a lot of buzz. And they were scaling nicely. And of course, we were running campaigns for them. They started getting closer to 30K months, 50K months, really building a memorable brand. And eventually they came up with a pretty brilliant product that was very easy to understand the benefits of. And it was kind of, what's the word? Kind of gimmicky, but it caught people, it was scroll stopping. And then, of course, they hired a photographer and videographer, but this allowed them to scale even further to about 100K a month, which was awesome. And so we would usually leave the demographics open for this client just because it's, sometimes quicker and easier to create campaigns. And then we also knew that we weren't missing any opportunities by doing that. And we knew that Facebook would optimize towards the lowest cost per result. But like I was saying earlier, once those holidays rolled around, we were creating a bunch of different campaigns, of course, doing our jobs. And suddenly that idea that men to 25 to 44, who are our core demographic, just went poof. And, we started seeing a ton of female orders, from ages 45 plus. And, we were like, why? And then we realized we were getting reviews coming through that said, this was perfect for my husband. So,
interesting.
So, it's like you think back and, this is kind of what caused that brand to scale to multi-million over a few short years. And we were grateful to be part of that because it was truly a rags to riches story. Some of the ads reached over 10 million views on Instagram and Facebook. But could you imagine if we got stuck in that mindset where we were like, no, our core demographic is men 25 to 44, we would have missed out big time. Big time. But that's sometimes why you just need to trust the algorithm and go broader with your target audience. Social media ads can be sometimes smarter than what you assume.
Yeah. Hey, what's one big takeaway you want listeners to get from this episode?
Oh, man. I would say, I think it was kind of that last part that I said.
Yeah, I think so. I would agree with you. Absolutely. Hey, how can our audience get in touch with you online if they want to do so?
Yeah, you can go to brandbuddyllc.com, fill out a contact form there, and we'll be able to reach out super fast. So,
and are you on LinkedIn?
Yep. You can find us on there under Brand Buddy LLC. Also on Instagram and Facebook. But yeah.
And are you personally on LinkedIn though? Your handle?
Yep.
Okay, fantastic. It's Martin Kier. If they want to look
for
it. Kier, right?
Yes.
Fantastic. We'll make sure to put those links in the show notes. Hey, thank you so much for coming on the show today. It's been a pleasure having you.
Thank you. Likewise. Thanks for having me.
Right on.